Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Dvapayano Viraha Katada Ajuhava Putreti Tan Mayataya Tadavo Benedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Munimanatusmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivanarottamam Devim Sarasvatam Vyasam Tuto Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastakamari Tarangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Tavevasmi Na Jivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Dayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Tatsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charnadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Pada Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, under our exalted Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So today, Mahadvarasi, we're celebrating Ekadashi on this day because it was mixed Ekadashi. It overlapped and touched to the Dvarasi day, so we're honoring the regulations of Ekadashi for this day. And we're going to continue offering obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, yes, and all of our devotees. And we continue hearing the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya chapter, what are we now, 13? What is this chapter number? Anyway, it's the one about Jagai and Madhai. And we started one verse, but the purport was 3 pages long. And so we're going to start that one over again so we can read the whole purport start to finish. It is connected to this verse where Mahaprabhu is giving Haridasa Thakur and Nityananda instruction. He said, "Listen, Nityananda, listen, Haridasa, go out and preach my order everywhere. Go to every house and beg in this way. Chant the names of Krishna, worship Krishna, follow Krishna's instructions. Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Kara Krishna Shiksha." Right? Now, this is the purport. Half of this purport we've read already. So I'm going to start it again. And you may find some familiarity with this. A bhikshuka, because that's in the verse, right? Prati gare giya kare a bhiksha, right? So do bhiksha, and one who does bhiksha is a bhikshuka. A bhikshuka is dependent on the donor. Therefore, knowing that the bhikshuka is situated on a lower platform, the higher placed donor becomes compassionate to him, or compassionate on him. To beg for someone's favor is called bhiksha. The higher placed donor comes down from his platform and uplifts the needy bhikshuka. Of course, if that bhikshuka is a transcendental personality, they're actually on a higher platform. Or even within Varnashram, if they're renounced brahmanas, renounced sannyasis, they're taking the humble position of a beggar, but actually by realization, by, vidvadruti status, they're higher. And so that's why sometimes people that are begged from, they become very angry and arrogant. Get away from me. We had that experience in airports and on parking lots, but airports in particular, where all these wealthy people coming through, they really resented devotees, and people that, a lot of famous people, celebrities and stuff, who are considered great, great people. They were very arrogant oftentimes towards devotees. On the other hand, some of that was our own fault because we didn't always present ourselves in the most humble and forthright manner. We were in disguise, and we used these little tactics, to beguile people. Ultimately, whatever it takes to get people to engage. But Srila Prabhupada always wanted us to present the books as they are, the message as it is. And he said, when you learn that art, you will be even better. And some devotees did like that. We had one of my god sisters, Vrindavan Vilasini, who lives in Vrindavan now, always wore a sari. And she was very upfront with who she was and what she was doing. And she's very humble and very sweet, and she always did very well. Shamarani also, very forthright preaching, right? So, anyway, to beg for someone's favor is called bhiksha. The higher placed donor comes down from his platform and uplifts the needy bhikshuka. Oh, and one other thing. Nowadays, there's a lot of devotees that are distributing in dhotis, completely straightforward, with books telling them exactly what they are, and they do huge in the modern ISKCON. That's very commendable, very, very amazing, very noteworthy. Realizing, because there's a thirst, there's a need for this, and when you speak forthrightly about our message, it resonates in the heart of the sincere soul, that soul who has the adhikar for this. So, realizing that when Nityananda Prabhu, the Lord of the 14 worlds, and Namacarya Thakur Haridasa, the grandfather of everyone, and the best of the pure devotees, would go begging alms in the dress of bhikshukas, wealthy people would have no alms suitable to offer them. Gaurasundar employed the act of begging alms to bring those people to the transcendental kingdom. So in other words, if they had appeared as Lord Brahma, Prahlad Maharaj, right, Nityananda Prabhu, the Lord himself, people would be awed. What could they give? But as humble bhikshukas, I can give this person something. The phrase Bala Krishna is explained as follows. Words that are not related to Krishna are more or less products of avidvadruti, or the conventional meaning of words according to persons who are not enlightened. Vidvad means the enlightened, avidvad means not enlightened. When a word's vidvadruti, or conventional meaning according to enlightened persons, is realized, it indicates Krishna. And such meanings are non-different from Krishna. One who chants the names of Krishna benefits his audience. And after achieving his own auspiciousness, he merges in the ocean of ecstasy due to remembrance of the Lord. When words indicate objects not related to Krishna, then the conditioned souls forget their constitutional position and consider themselves the enjoyers. We have to work on that at every moment, not just when we're chanting, not when we're preaching, because in these conditions it's obvious, you're getting constant reminders. But in our day-to-day activities, which can become routine, we often forget the deeper understanding of what it is that we're trying to accomplish and where it is that we're living and practicing in the mat. So, one who chants the names of Krishna benefits his audience, and after achieving his own auspiciousness, He merges in the ocean of ecstasy due to remembrance of the Lord, which is always why it's so nice when we have more people chanting. The more the better, like Mangalarti. Sometimes there's hardly anybody. Sometimes when there's a lot of people, it's so much nicer. Or any artik or time when we are chanting. It just brings happiness to the soul, but also it increases affection for those around you who are also chanting. Oh, these are my devotee God brothers, God sisters. Oh, I have so much affection for them because they are doing activity to please my spiritual master, my Guru Varga, my Radha Krishna, my Mahaprabhu. Oh, they're so glorious. If, the whole idea in living in association is to gain appreciation and gain the service mentality towards devotees. For our whole life, we've lived with people on the basis of what they can do for me, right? Oh, what are they going to do for me? How are they going to make me happy? What am I getting out of it, right? So nowadays, when they talk about husband's wife, oh, what's he do for you? What's she do for you? What do you get out of it? They forget the whole idea. In families also, it's all meant for the upliftment, the benefit. Most of these relationships are meant to be God-centered. When they're God-centered, they become service, but they become happy service. And outside of family life, living in a mat, it's the same thing. If you want to be happy, you cultivate the mood of service to the Vaishnavas. And when you do that, Krishna is automatically pleased, Guru is automatically pleased. And so much more comes into your heart because of that. Right? And if we're not happy, then we have to analyze, why am I not happy? Oh, maybe I don't have that mood. Maybe I want it all about me, right? So I know that's what happens to me when I think about being here, right? I go, why am I here in this snowbound, icy, place? Oh my God, what's the use of being here? I should go away, drive in my van and go to Florida or Hawaii or something. But that only happens 2 or 3 times a day, But then when I think about, oh, wait a minute, this is, part of the mission of Mahaprabhu. Somehow or other, Krishna's decided he's come to live here, and even though it doesn't seem like much, from small seeds, great, oak trees grow, right? Banyan tree starts with a little tiny seed. It's got to start somewhere at some point. So it's a great opportunity. Anybody can jump on board, jump on the boat, once it's taken off and things are going good. But to develop and build something when it's difficult and in the beginning, that requires more dedication, more surrender. But great reward also comes from that. So, I have to talk to my mind every day, right? Even right now, I'm looking out at those giant what are those icicles? Thinking, oh my God. So,
Huh?
When
I was a kid, that's candy.
Right. So, Vidvadruti, conventional meaning according to transcendental persons, indicates Krishna, non-different from Krishna. One who chants the name of Krishna benefits his audience and achieves his own auspiciousness and merges in the ocean of ecstasy due to remembrance of the Lord. So the chanting and serving, right? When words indicate objects not related to Krishna, then the conditioned soul forgets their constitutional position and consider themselves the enjoyers. At that time, the senses turn from the service of Rishikesh and lord it over Rishikesh's external energy. The Lord's instruction, chant the name of Krishna, is the prime example of the Lord's magnanimity. The name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. Only Krishna, in the form of Guru, can teach this. Becoming initiated into this teaching and eagerly preaching such teaching is service to Sri Chaitanya. In order to make this known, Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Namacarya Haridasa followed the order of the Lord. They followed the order of the Lord. We always use this word anugatya, right? Following, all of our activity is following. And that is maybe the most difficult thing for us. Again, to repeat the same theme. We've come here because of neglect and wanting independence, right? But we're not independent. We're controlled by the material nature. We're under the control of three kinds of suffering: adhyatmic, adhibodic, adhidaivic. Adhidaivic means the conditions of nature, right? Like snow, rain, freezing cold, blazing heat. These things, these are under control of the devas, and no one can escape that, right? And sometimes they give us happiness, and sometimes they give us challenge, but we're not the controllers of that. Adhibodic, other living entities, even entities like mosquitoes, right, can give us problem. Spiders, ticks, Lyme disease, little insignificant things, bacteria, things in our guts, bears running around the woods here. But even other persons, sometimes we feel afflicted and put upon by other people. But that's, that just comes with the territory. You can't escape it. It's the material world's way of making us suffer, and enjoy according to our karma. Or if we're devotees, according to Krishna's desire to rectify us. Sometimes it takes the form, and it seems to be just like karma. People like astrology, right? And they tell you, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But I know so many devotees who their charts are completely different their lives are completely different from what their charts say. I know devotees that were supposed to have died years ago, this and that, never happened. Me, I was supposed to get all this great stuff, never happened. Krishna wasn't going to let that happen. Krishna will give us what is required for our rectification, for our enlightenment. And adhyatmic, the things from our own self, our own body, our own mind. Perhaps the worst of all, perhaps the worst of all. At least me, my mind tortures me, I have to beat it every morning, every single morning. I'm not going to Mangalarti today, no way. I'm definitely not. Every single morning I struggle, and I say, yeah, I got to do it. I said, in a little while you're going to want to do it. Just trust me, Well, I'm not taking a cold shower. Well, just for a few minutes, just a minute, and then the water will warm up. No, all right, and but I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Every single day, So don't think you're alone on that. And then so many other things as well. But that's the mind, adhyatmic. But our guardians, our divine guardians, are, they're seeking our supreme welfare. And if we just take to this process, then these three kinds of miseries, they may not go away, but attachment to them and being affected by them will go away. Will go away. Like Haridasa Thakur, beaten in 21 marketplaces, right? To the point where his skin and muscles were completely torn off his body, only bones remained. And they also that he would give up chanting and become a Muslim again. He said, I'm never giving up chanting. And the idea of Muslim, Christian, Jew, that we don't consider any of that. That's all external designation. We're simply devotees of God. We're not a religion. We're a spiritual movement of spiritual enlightenment that can apply to any religion. It's Jaiva Dharma. It's the eternal identity of the soul. So Haridasa Thakur, he accepted even that torment. And then finally, when his tormentors said, please, Prabhu, why are you not dying? Because even as a skeleton, practically, he was chanting. The life was in his marrow. He said, what? If you don't die, then the Kazi will kill us for failure to do our duty. Oh, you want me to die? Okay, I'll die. And he lies down dead. I mean, as if his soul had left the body. So they decided, we won't bury it. A Muslim should be buried so he can go to heaven, but we'll throw it in the Ganga instead, because they have the reverse belief. So they threw the bones into the Ganga, and to their amazement, they didn't sink. They just stayed on top of the water and floated to around the bend out of sight. And then some hours later, Haridasa Thakur came back completely restored, chanting happily, as if nothing had happened. And during his torment, he prayed to the Lord, please forgive them, that they are suffering from ignorance so much. Don't cause them to be punished. They're just following orders. They don't know what to do. These are the qualities of a great, great soul. Srila Prabhupada would always cite the example in this connection of Lord Jesus Christ, who did the same thing, accepted this torment, accepted death, leaving the body, and then coming back into it, healthy and restored. All right? So where was that last sentence? Though, okay, I'll just read this one again. Boy, this is a long sentence. It's like a paragraph. One who knows Sri Nityananda Prabhu as the origin of Guru Tattva, and who, after being freed from the bondage of material existence, chants Krishna's name, which appeared in the form of a dress from the mouth of Sri Namacarya Haridasa, will be delivered from all material obstacles and attain Krishna Prem, which is the goal of all living entities. This is important. I was just listening to Jaiva Dharma, the chapter on Namaparad. And Namaparad is that which prevents us from getting the benefit of chanting Shuddhanam, right? It's based on our ignorance, and it's based on negative feelings towards the Lord, towards the devotee. And the teaching given by Babaji Maharaj to Bijay Kumar and Brajanath about it says that as long as you're chanting Nam Aparad, you can never be delivered. You can never chant pure name, and you'll have to suffer in the cycle of birth and death. Right? So the only way to overcome Nam Aparad is by Sambandha Gyan, Sambandha Tattva, right? To know what are these offenses, to study those offenses diligently, to study them in connection with your own condition, and vigorously try to avoid them. Very attentively try to avoid them in chanting. And to chant a lot while trying to avoid these offenses. And if you do like that, it says very quickly, you'll be relieved from this state. But we have to study. You can't just casually chant or think, well, I'm doing my chanting. No, because our hearts are afflicted with offenses, with aparad, and we have to know how to root them out. That's the cause of all of our suffering and anxiety. We all have suffering and anxiety, right? Comes in different forms and shapes for everyone, right? But the only way to become freed from that, delivered from all material obstacles and attaining Krishna Prem, it's the goal of all living entities. That's how he ends that sentence, right? Is to avoid this. You have to know Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, Supreme Lords appearing divinely, Namacarya Haridasa, what is his transcendental position, and by extension, what is Guru Tattva? Who are our gurus, right? What is this holy name, right? Through Nityananda Prabhu, right, and by extension, Guru, Sri Gaurasundar has imparted the qualification for chanting the name of Krishna to every human being. Every human being is qualified to chant Shuddhanam. This is clearly, beautifully described in Jaiva Dharma in the debate between Krishna Chudamani and Vaishnav Das. Right? The eligibility for being a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or Vaishya, that's based on your previous karma. The eligibility for bhakti is simply faith. Every human is eligible for bhakti. All we need to do is cultivate faith, and faith is cultivated by association with devotees, and then subsequently by study of Scripture, hearing Scripture, taking initiation, and serving. Serving. But serving in an enlightened way, not in a begrudging way, happily embracing the idea, go back to the original point, anugatya, following authority. Because that's the reason we're here, but we can't avoid following authority. Authority crushes us in this world. We're under the authority of the laws of nature, which we described, the Adhyatmic, Adhibodhic, Adhidaivik. We're also under the authority of government, police, tax collectors, politicians, people trying to squeeze everything out of us that they can. You're always under authority. And if you don't follow it, they throw you in jail. Right? So in the spiritual world, there's also authority. Right? When you read Jaiva Dharma in the later chapters, it's described how the servants of Krishna, whether they're cowherd boys or gopis or Nanda Maharaj, and Yashoda Devi, they have groups that are divided according to their specific inclination to serve. And those groups all have group leaders who guide and oversee this particular kind of service, right? And so the whole idea of, for instance, becoming a manjari, right, serving in that mood, there are many different groups serving under Yuteshwaris. A group is a Yuta, and a Yuteshwari is the goddess who oversees each of those groups. And there are many, many such groups. So until the whole idea of bhakti and sadhan and serving under guidance is to overcome that reluctance to serve under authority, so that we embrace serving with love. And even in this world we see some indication of that, right? And in most cases, a mother or father doesn't begrudge the hard work they do for their children. They want to do it, even though it can be filled with sacrifice and suffering. They take joy in it. When there's love, you take joy in following. And you may not even love the person you're following. I know in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada set up a system of hierarchy, right? And it was understood that through the GBC, Temple President, and on down the line, different levels of hierarchy, if you served in that way, you're serving Srila Prabhupada. And sometimes you didn't like your boss. A lot of times you didn't like him, because we were all so full of rough edges still, But you knew, well, if I just keep doing it, Prabhupada's pleased, right? And that's all that matters. And we did, and it worked. And even if the order was given somewhat imperfectly or indelicately, Srila Prabhupada was overseeing everything. Guru is overseeing everything and protecting us. So that's the idea. We have to embrace that. So through Nityananda Prabhu, in other words, Guru, Sri Gaurasundar has imparted the qualification for chanting the name of Krishna to every human being. One who awards this qualification cannot be anyone other than Krishna, because if one does not possess something, how can he give it to others? The name and person are non-different. Therefore, as soon as the holy names are chanted, love of Krishna is guaranteed. Only Krishna can say this. Since Krishna Prem is unattainable for persons who are absorbed in thoughts of objects not related to Krishna, the vibration of words that are not meant for the glorification of Krishna result in material bondage. Quote, let the people of the world engage in glorifying Krishna. Although this order was given to the original Sri Jagat Gurudev, that's Nityananda, and Sri Namacarya, since these two acharyas carried out this order of the Lord, all pious persons who follow this order will also certainly become qualified to act as acharyas, who alone are able to fully engage in the service of Sri Chaitanya. Again, your upliftment is guaranteed if you happily, willingly, with a favorable mood, follow this order, follow this line, right? Embrace this concept of seva, right? By following order, It's the most difficult thing for us, right? Like Frank Sinatra, right? I did it my way. People applaud, right? What was that line, Something to one who feels and not to the man who kneels. And when he says that, everyone goes, yeah, I'm not kneeling to anybody. Yeah, my way. That's the anthem of the materialist, We want to do it Krishna's way. So, in the language of a bhikshuka, Bala Krishna, chant the name of Krishna, indicates the deliverance of the living entities. When this is received by a listener, he follows the orders of Chaitanya Dev, becomes freed from material conception, and acts as an acharya who is a manifestation of the Lord. So you want to be a boss? First you got to follow, right? And then you can become a boss. But then you'll become a real boss. By following now, reluctantly, with resentment, antagonism, whatever it is, or even you're sincere and you're doing it, but we all struggle. But then you become qualified. But then your heart's no longer filled with the qualities of, your formal material condition, like the acharyas. They're the most loving, humble, graceful personalities who themselves are imbued with the mood of selfless service and love. That's why we're attracted to them. So they want us to become like that, to become yourself a manifestation of the Lord. Defeating the concept of only one Jagat Guru, the exalted spiritual masters who are manifestations of Guru Tattva engage in delivering the living entities. Again, this is the disease of the Kanishta. Only my Guru is Guru. Only our group has a pure devotee. Only we understand how to do it. Krishna manifests his message through many exalted personalities. We may be attracted to this one or to that one, but you cannot say that there are not multiple personalities who are qualified to preach this message, even if it appears they may be doing a little different, because the Lord is reaching out to all kinds of persons with all different kinds of qualification, cultures, backgrounds, education, right? Defeating the concept of only one Jagat Guru. The exalted spiritual masters, who are manifestations of Guru Tattva, engage in delivering the living entities. The phrase Bhaja Krishna is explained as follows. Sri Chaitanya Dev ordered the two preachers to appeal to the conditioned souls to engage in the worship of Krishna. Since the living entities who are averse to Krishna are attracted to objects that are not related to Krishna, they take shelter of the enjoyment propensity with the desire to become the controller of those relatively inferior objects. Mine. This is mine. Get away. Get off my lawn. Therefore, giving up the worship of Krishna, they consider sense enjoyment as the goal and desire to become the master of that. Such activities are impediments in their worship. So that's our daily affliction. Some seva, some not, right? Persons who are averse to the worship of Krishna have various qualifications in this world. Qualification or adhikar, eligibility, status. In order to achieve those qualifications, the living entity gives up the worship of Krishna and engages in the service of the 6 enemies, headed by lust and anger. And in this way, one invites inauspiciousness by thinking himself the enjoyer of this manifest world. For the benefit of the living entities, the most magnanimous Sri Vishrambar ordered the two Prabhus, Nityananda and Haridasa, to preach the concept of worshiping Krishna under the shelter of the holy name. The phrase Kara Krishna Shiksha is explained as follows. Krishna alone is the object of learning. When self-realized persons see spiritual variegatedness, after realizing the meaning of Kartaram Isham Purusham Brahmajonim, quote, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, was the source of the Supreme Brahman, end quote, they understand the insignificance of knowledge that is not related to Krishna. Krishna alone attracts all objects of this world. His beauty is extraordinary and incomparable. He is full of knowledge. Only he is capable of dictating that objects not related to him are fit to be renounced. He is averse to enjoy any object other than his devotees. If we don't cultivate that mood of devotion and pine and yearn to be with Krishna and to be in a loving relationship, then we won't attract his attention. He's not attracted by wealth, pompous display of festivals, building big temples, anything that's done unless the mood of love is there. And if the mood of love is there, even what we might consider to be the most insignificant, like the broken, dried out rice of Brahmana, Sudama Brahmana, right. Sudama Brahmana. Mataks matir jnanam apohanam cha. And Krishna says, I'm source of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Oh. Anyway, that humble little offering, when Haridasa Thakur had purified and converted that unfortunate prostitute and made her a great devotee, he said, simply be here and worship Krishna with this, serve this tulsi and worship Krishna with chanting the holy name and with water and tulsi leaves, right? You don't need a lot. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakti pranashati. Even a leaf, a fruit, a flower offered with love will capture Krishna. It's the love. The banana peels of Vidura's wife, right? So many examples. It's not, what in this world has any value to Krishna? It's inanimate matter. Unless it's accompanied by the mood of love, then whatever it is we're doing, it doesn't really have any value. Then how can I serve? I don't have any love. Well, that's the beauty and the grace of Guru. That by trying and keeping these things in mind, then gradually that love will build and build and build. And our baby-like steps, they appreciate and they encourage. So don't worry, thinking, oh, I'm not worthy. No, we're not. But even the greatest devotees feel they're not worthy either. In fact, that's a symptom of prema, the greatest humility. So, by the influence of Krishna Shiksha, the living entities realize they are eternal. Such instructions destroy all nescience and ignorance of the living entities. And on the strength of Krishna Shiksha, there is no opportunity for unhappiness resulting from proximity with objects not relating to Krishna. All right, so by being humble and receptive to this instruction, even though it goes against our conditioned nature, then obstructions, ignorance, those things that make us unhappy are destroyed, right? By obtaining Krishna Shiksha, Krishna's instruction, all perfection is achieved. The mirror of one's mind is cleansed. The blazing forest fire of material existence is extinguished. The supreme goal of life is achieved. And one realizes that Krishna Shiksha is the purport of all education, right? Cheto Darpanamarjanam, Bhava Maha, Davagni Nirvapanam. Right? Shrayak, he's giving, Kairava, Chandikavitaranam, he's giving us that first verse of Shikshashtika, which the 7 excellent results of chanting the holy name are given. When this, the supreme goal of life is achieved, and one realizes that Krishna Shiksha is the purport of all education. When this state is achieved by a living entity, he cannot be contaminated. Rather, he becomes purified and attains supreme happiness at every moment. Krishna Shiksha is the giver of all opulences that deride all other processes for achieving the goal of life, and the bestower of the highest platform of all sweetness, the highest, topmost. Krishna Shiksha is the destroyer of the living entities enjoying propensity and the belittler of liberation. Therefore, Krishna Shiksha is most necessary for all living entities who desire their own benefit. So that's that verse and that extraordinary purport. So packed. And when reading that, I just think of so many times Srila Prabhupada, Srila Narayan Raj were giving this same teaching. This is coming also, reading, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's literature, reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. All of our acharyas are saying the same thing. This is such an amazing purport, though. And it's all based on what? On Mahaprabhu giving the instruction to Haridasa Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu, go out and preach, chant the name of Krishna, glorify Krishna, teach others, right? Great. So we'll stop here. Went a little long, but beautiful, beautiful teachings. So, all glories to our gurus, to Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Gurudev, to Sri Nityananda Prabhu, to Sri Haridasa Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada, and all these humble devotees who we wish to become the servants of. As Mahaprabhu said, Gopi Bharator Parakamalayur, Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I want to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Right? That's what we want. In the material world, we don't want to be the servant of anyone. Right? But in the spiritual world, it's the most exalted, wonderful position to be. Okay. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.